This is Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. Tonight we have a very special guest returning to the podcast. We have Mr. Sam Quinton, who's currently running his... Is this your fifth campaign?
It's my sixth Kickstarter campaign.
Sixth Kickstarter campaign.
My fifth role-playing book.
Okay. So, sixth campaign, fifth role-playing book, Whispers of Persephone. How's it going tonight, Sam?
It's going really well. It's good to be back on. I'm glad to hear the show again and be able to be a part of it. Always love being here. The campaign's going really well. We're 81% funded. We've got 30 days left in the campaign. So it looks like we're going to fund nicely, and we're in good position to hit our stretch goals. It's a really exciting time to be doing business on Kickstarter. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. So what made you decide to do a longer than 30-day goal on this one?
There were a couple of factors for that. One, I wanted to kind of coincide it a little bit with the Halloween season, and two, there was this instance where there were a few really high-profile Kickstarters that were launching right about the same time that I knew were going to draw a lot of traffic, and so I wanted to give myself a few other days outside of my normal 28-day cycle, just so that if people were really committing to some of these larger titles that were coming out, because Judge Dredd came out and came out really, really strong, and a few other big titles that came out were definitely ones that people had been looking forward to for years, and so I wanted to basically give myself a little time to make sure that the backers were able to budget across it more easily.
That makes total sense. So tell us a little bit about what this particular Kickstarter is about.
Well, Whispers of Persephone is a source book of necromancy for the 5th edition of Gary Gygax's game. So it's released under the Open Game License as defined under the SRD 5.1 document, published by Wizards of the Coast, with whom I'm not affiliated, and thus endeth the legalese for, hey, it's what people use in their D&D games. And that's how we, don't violate copyright.
Right.
But yeah, it's for those people who want to play an evil character and want to have their characters engaged in evil, but with purpose. So often when you're playing a role-playing game and you do something that's horrible, and people say, well, why would you do that? And the answer is, well, because I'm evil. And while that works really well in the Justice League, when the Flash's mind is in Lex Luthor's body, on the table it kind of gets stale after a while. So you look for, well, why would you, murder all these people? Why would you do all these other horrible, horrible things in your game? And so I wrote to that with a mind towards needs for particular rituals and particular horrible spells and just all these things in this effort for someone to grasp a greater power. And built it so that it could be used for players and for game masters, so that game masters could build, villains that had more depth to them as opposed to these cardboard cutout kind of bad guys.
Okay, that makes total sense to me. Tell us about your rewards for this one.
Well, for the rewards on this, we kept it pretty simple. We have the sacrificial victim tier, which is for a PDF copy of Whispers of Persephone. That's only $10. And then we have the Stitching and Apprentice tier, which has been fairly popular. That's a $20 tier. And what that gets the backer on that is they get the PDF, but they also get the print-on-demand codes for both covers and in both hardcover and softcover. So they're actually getting 4 print-on-demand codes. So it was I thought it was a good tier that if someone wanted to get the book also for like a friend for Christmas or for the holiday season or what have you,
right,
they get their own. They still have another code that they could use to go ahead and get that. And I thought that was a good idea. I love to sign books and send them to people. I think it's a really great way to really kind of be more personable with your backers. But the other thing is, I really just get a kick out of it. I think it's nice to write in the book and sign it off and say, hey man, thanks for helping me out and get this book pledged.
Right.
So I put in 2 different pledge tiers for signed copies. And then we did a little something different with this for our higher end tiers. We put in a fallen hero tier for people to be named as one of those heroes who stood up to fight evil and lost. And we're going to put in a little obituary in the book for those fallen heroes, and their names are mentioned in the book. And so those backers, they're going to be named as those fallen heroes, and that's kind of a fun thing to do.
I like that. Do they get to make their own name?
What's that?
Is it like their actual name, or is it a character name that they get to choose?
They can use either. They can use either their actual name, and so it could be Adam Watson, fallen hero. He died doing the right thing.
Never.
Or it could be Sir Thomas Blake, who died running fiercely from his adversaries, tripped and fell and broke his neck and was eaten by zombies. Either way, it's one of those things. I mean, we're actually going to put a lot more work into the obituary, obviously, but it's going to be a fun way to be included in the book. And throughout the book, people are mentioned in different ways as far as the fallen heroes go. And then with the Acolytes of Death, that's another reward tier that's on the higher end. And for that one, there are only 12 slots for that, which a handful of them have already been taken. And those people are going to be named as one of the inner circle of this particular necromantic order. They're named as characters. They get a page in the book is basically a little biography of who their character is in there, and they get the character defined with game stats in the book as well. And then we had our necromancer backer level, and that person is getting illustrated as the necromancer, the person who invented the tradition and gave rise to these horrible magics. And the book's also dedicated to that individual, so it's a handful of really on-topic kind of reward tiers, and people seem to be responding pretty well to it.
Okay, how much are the higher end reward tiers?
The Necromancer reward tier was $300 and is taken.
Okay.
The Acolyte of Death is $150 on there, and that one we have 7 left of the 12, and then we have 5 fallen hero slots left. Okay.
All right. So far you are at 81%, is that correct?
Yep, we had a $3,500 goal to cover art costs and to build in the leeway for our fulfillment costs for physical copies. We've got a couple of stretch goals. So we're at 2856 when we record this right now with 68 backers.
And still have 30 days to go, so it definitely looks like you're going to meet your goal. So what have you been doing to promote this one?
Well, I did another interview with DBJ. I think that I sent you some information about that, too, about maybe talking to him yourself. And then also did a lot with the previous backers of the Steel Road and the Tarot Adventures, and also with Tale of the Wizard's Eye. They've been doing a lot to spread the word on Twitter and whatnot. It's been really amazing to see them come out, not just pledge for the book, but also really work to spread the word. And so, I mean, you know this, and some of the people in the audience may not know, but Kickstarter will also let you see a ticker, a counter on how many people have saved your campaign for later, so that they get notified of it. And right now, I've got 130 people who've saved the campaign that haven't yet pledged to it. So
nice.
Really pretty optimistic about where we're going right now. I think people are really liking it. The artwork is really stunning. It's not something you see every day. I mean, we've got an image on there of a cup that's made from a human skull and chased in silver and filled with blood. It's grim, gruesome, real horror stuff in a lot of ways.
Right.
How does the print-on-demand work for the people that get the codes? Do they just send it to a company?
Well, actually what happens is that they get to order the copy from Drive-Thru RPG, and the print-on-demand code, what that does is it zeroes out the costs beyond the shipping and the printing. So they actually only pay the printing costs of the book, and then whatever shipping method they should happen to choose. So it really lets us put on a smaller backer reward tier for that benefit, for the reward, because it keeps us from having to have it shipped to us and then shipped out. So we cut that out, and then we cut out any additional markup for those expenses related to Kickstarter fees and things like that.
That's a nice little way to do it for people.
Yeah, it works pretty smoothly too, because you can actually even distribute the code within an email blast, or even within backer-only updates, or even within the Kickstarter Messenger system. You can distribute it, since you can narrow that down to particular tiers, and it works very, very nicely.
So this is it's just like a small little backstory and some new things that you came up with for the wizard character?
I'd say it's a little bit of stuff, but right now the playtest version is 101 pages. Adding in the rest of the material from the characters to the backers and some of the other things that are coming into the book as playtest notes come back, it's probably going to come out around 126, 130 pages or so. And it looks really neat. The last time that you and I talked for the show, I was telling you about how the cover of the book is done so that the spine of the book looks like a spine, and that came out really, really well. If you haven't had a chance, you can see it on the most recent update on the page for Whispers. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I like the way the pages came out a lot. How you're talking about how they were going to have blood seeping from the edges. That turned out really nice.
Yeah, Christian's an amazing artist. He did a great job. We are going to dial in the blood stain just a little bit because it's running into the text box. Just to make sure the legibility is there. But he did just a fantastic job with the blood-spattered pages. And I realize it sounds really, really gruesome and really gross, but it is a book about necromancers. It's supposed to look like a spell book from a necromancer. And I think that just that alone has really captured a lot of people's attention.
Yeah, it stands to reason if people are listening to this particular podcast, they probably like horror things. So the more gruesome, the better. That's more likely to capture our audience, I think.
Well, we wanted also to make sure that if people needed a book to use for LARPing or something like that, they could use this as like a stand-in if they didn't have time to craft like a leather-bound tome for themselves. I think this is a nice little stand-in for that. And it does. It's got just those vivid, rich red tones in it. And then the blood stains, they actually look like blood soaked into paper.
Right.
So it's kind of neat.
So, is there anything you can do to kind of dial into the LARPing community? Have you tried that whatsoever?
Well, I don't do any LARPing myself anymore. But I wanted to just kind of make sure I had that covered for folks, because I just kind of had this little twitch in the back of my head saying, yeah, we need to do this, because if we're going to make sure that this is, really bringing the dark into the dark arts, we need to look out for the people who are playing in those LARPing events where they are the dark magician of the event, or where they are one of the cultists of the event, or where they are one of those characters who is villainous in their appetites and their expressions. And I thought it was just kind of cool that they could have that book that looked like it was bound in flesh and had spine for the spine and the bloodstained pages. It just all kind of fired my imagination for them.
Right.
And so while we didn't really promote it much to the LARPing community, I mean, we've certainly showed it off to people who we know who like to get out and LARP with their friends, and they were really excited about it. Although some of them actually preferred the plain black one with the wispy lettering across it as more of a subdued way to carry it along, so that it wasn't so blatant. and kind of blended in better with their particular costuming choices. So that was a nice thing to see too. So we've got a fairly close split, even on the Kickstarter right now, where people are kind of choosing one or the other for their signed copies, particularly, and you can kind of see that on the counter. It's kind of neat. It's just about almost directly, 50-50 or 60-40, somewhere around there.
Right. Okay. So this is not going to be the last Kickstarter project you do this year, correct? You have something coming up with Drip, right?
Yeah, I got invited to be a creator on Drip on Thursday, which was an amazing surprise. Came out of nowhere, and I was really, really thrilled about it, and still, pardon me, still am. I was working actually to develop some content for a Patreon launch, and instead I'm going to migrate it onto Drip. And it's going to be a lot of fun, really, because what it is it's a monthly release of a monster or a creature or a companion, and it's one of those things where this coming month we're going to do a horror-themed monster, and then we'll rotate between either monsters or characters. So we might have like a pre-generated character on there, and then also we're going to do some things like cohorts and companions that you would have. So maybe a wizard's apprentice and a squire or two of those particular character concepts we're looking at doing. And then also creatures like particularly fantastic mounts or familiars and things like that. And we're going to build that in with their complete gameplay stats for the 5th edition mechanic, and then also attach like backstory narrative to it, and probably some example encounters and treasures for the monsters and other things. One of the things that I really want to do with the monsters particularly is line out encounters so that people can just drop them in, and maybe little mini adventure material for them to use. So it's kind of a nice, easy way for the game masters to integrate them and have a really good time with an original monster that their players have never seen before.
Oh, that sounds really cool. Are you going to make any of your past projects accessible to Drip backers?
No. I'm going to keep those off Drip for now, because most of my Kickstarter followers and stuff already have those. And I'm going to focus on new creations. Because I want to keep moving forward. I want to learn first on how to better market the stuff that I've already released. Because that's probably my worst skill set as a businessman right now. But as a writer and someone who's publishing, I love putting the books out. And I love going through the Kickstarter process and getting to know the people who are using the material. I talk to a lot of them all the time on Twitter and Facebook, and get little tags and stuff from Instagram and stuff. It's just a lot of fun. But getting the material out and getting it into people's hands and creating is just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And being able to give the artists that I work with more work so that they can actually spend more time as artists and less time as baristas, and less time changing oil, less time working at the Quickie Mart. I like the fact that I've been able to direct that into the hands of people with amazing talent and help keep them working on their passions.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. I much prefer that my artists work as artists than anything else. That's for sure. So,
well, you and I talked about that whole concept about the importance of paying artists fairly. I don't remember if it was the first time you had me on or last time you had me on, but I mean, it's just as true now as it ever has been. I mean, you want them working in their actual profession. It hones their skills. It's better for them. It's better for all of us, as not just as businessmen, but also as human beings, to do the right thing and to be ethical and to really put the money in the hands of the people who are doing so much to help bring us our own success.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And we could do a whole show on people who don't believe that artists should get paid at all, but That's a whole different topic for another day.
I cannot tell you how much I've gotten shouted down on my own blog for advocating that you pay artists fairly. It's hysterical sometimes. There's only one person ever had to get blocked, but that's because of some images he attached to the posting. And I'm like, nope, you're gone, dude.
Yeah, people occasionally do weird stuff like that.
Human beings are strange.
I know of a professional, long-time working comic creator who recently did that, so,
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah, it was I'm not going to say what his name is, but I wouldn't go as far as to say he's famous, but he's been a steady working artist in this industry for about 30 to 35 years, working on Archie and Bongo and, those type of books primarily. So children's books mainly, right? Or at least, kid-friendly books. And recently he took an exception because he just discovered that a colorist had signed their name to a cover that he had done for my friend's company, about 7 to 8 years ago. And for some reason, just had a flip out about this, went on Facebook and was going on and on and on about it on my friend's page, which my friend was like, he worked on it. He could sign his name to it. And he got mad about it because the artist, the other artist in question, who was a colorist, had done a book recently that featured sexually explicit content. And so the industry vet posted that on the thread talking about children's books, and it was like, and he actually posted the images. So, the guy who created it didn't post it there. The industry vet did, and it's like, you should have a little bit more class than that, dude.
Yeah, that's way outside the lines.
Right? Yeah, it was pretty nuts.
Way outside the lines.
Yep. That's why, it's important to have some sort of guidelines for how to communicate with the public, I guess.
Yeah. That's crazy what people will do sometimes to
right?
a human being.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts, but it happens. So, yeah, I know people on the internet, they just kind of think that they can say whatever they want and it's going to have this big earth-shattering, whatever on you. And sometimes that's that they think that you pay too much money or you pay too little money or,
Yeah.
Which is just crazy to me. It's like, how many people are out there not paying money? Why would you advocate for that? That's a strange thing to advocate for.
I know, and you sit here and you particularly, you've been in this industry a lot longer than I have, and I don't know of anyone who's ever questioned your integrity or the product that you put out.
So I haven't really played that much. I'm pretty inexperienced in this whole type of gaming, but it's pretty entertaining because you get to make up whatever you want, and I really like that. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen a whole lot of dark things like what you're doing, and I really like that. I haven't really looked for anything, but in my limited scope, it doesn't seem like I've found a whole lot of things that delve into being as evil as you go. And I really like that idea.
Well, thanks. I really tried to, I say this a lot about this book, I tried to put the dark back into the dark arts with this. Now, there are a number of other small press publishers who've done works about playing evil characters and different types of dark types of magic and whatnot, but I think that the material in Whispers is a little unique because it's mostly based on old sacrificial practices and influenced a lot by publications that you look at what people thought of dark magicians around the Middle Ages and the Renaissance and all the way up into like the 19th century, and then you look at the modern horror concepts and took a lot of what was common between those that was exceptionally abhorrent and gave it purpose. Because why else would you do do these terrible things. And so I think that by putting that into the game mechanic, it makes for more interesting villains, you know. So if I'm going to play a Stygian Necromancer from Whispers, and people are saying, well, why do you keep abducting all these people and sacrificing them in your lap? Well, I have my reasons. You know, I have my reasons, and the mechanical reasons are plainly there, and the rituals building up to other magical acts later on are certainly there, and it's a fun way to build a narrative and give those people playing those characters a chance to play the bad guy in a creative way that really reaches into some dark places.
If I were to play this, would I be... If I was the one playing a character and everyone else had someone that was good, am I playing from a villain standpoint, or just like the evil person that's within the group of my travelers?
You can really do either, but if you're playing a Stygian Necromancer alongside a group of good aligned heroes, you're probably going to have to hide your actions because a lot of the things that you do are just absolutely antithetical to what they're going to believe. Because, again, the ritual sacrifice element comes immediately to mind. But with that, also, you could also certainly play a villain and just be tagging along with your group as a means to an end. There's one of the villains in the book that has a pretty prominent role in that, and that's Ild, who we revealed actually for the first time ever on our last appearance on the Darkslinger Mafia podcast, interestingly enough. Ild is a very evil young woman, and during the playtests for this last round of playtests, one of the game masters reported that their group stormed her tower, having never seen her before, and just fighting through all these undead and all these other monstrosities that she had brought into being. And when they took the tower, they didn't find any main bad guy, and they assumed that person had run off and escaped. And so they went down to the dungeons to liberate these captives, and they found that they had been blinded and their tongues had been destroyed. And they found this little woman that was hiding in a back corner and just covered in just dirt. And they rescued her, not knowing that it was the bad guy. It was Ild, and so they took these other people and they escorted them to these temples to try and get some treatment for all the horrible things that happened to them. They were blind and mute and just terrified and horribly injured. And they left with the chief villain, not knowing she was the bad guy. And that night she offered to make tea for them and poisoned all of them.
Wow, it's gruesome.
Yeah,
I like it.
It was a wild time. He said that they had a really great time of it, and that when she escaped, that half of them had no interest in pursuing her because they didn't want to tangle with her again.
That's really cool, because I mean, the bits I've played so far, nothing gets too terribly dark and sinister. Everything's always has a little bit of lightheartedness to it, and if you're playing these games and you can do anything you want, why are you playing like that? Why aren't you going way outside the realms? And that seems to be what you're aiming at.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely aimed for a dark game session that's there to really push a lot of boundaries. And the thing, too, is there's nothing wrong with lighthearted games. Those are just as fun as ever. But we are coming up on the Halloween season, and I think it's a good time for that. And then the other thing, too, is that I kind of had to put Whispers together because I had Death Comes to Glenfollow, the next series in my next book in my adventure series. And I wanted Ild as a villain, and so I needed the material put together for her and her backstory and all that, and that kind of gave rise to the need to write Whispers, and so one book begot another.
Very nice. So are they all sort of connected?
Yeah, Ild is the main bad guy in Death Comes to Glenfollow in the series, And that's pretty much where those two books intersect. But beyond that, I mean, Whispers can be used in any 5th edition game. Really, any at all. Even in different genres. You could have people who are using it in high fantasy or in contemporary modern settings or near future settings. Because it's not really dependent upon any of those tropes. It really does fit nicely, because you could take your dark necromancer into a modern urban setting, and they're still a dark necromancer, but we call them by a different name. We call them serial killers.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice twist.
Yeah.
How many of these do you already have out?
This is going to be my second source book. It's going to be my 5th RPG book, the first 3 being adventures. My next RPG book after this is going to be the 3rd adventure in the Tarot series. And then I have a comic book coming back to Kickstarter, 47 Furious Tales, which is a samurai storyline that I'm really ferociously proud of. It's illustrated by Alexia Veldhausen. We're going to do everything we can to fund it right this time and get it out to all of the people who tried to support us first time. And,
which I was one of.
Yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous. She has such gorgeous work on it, and some of the stuff that she's done since is just so amazing. Just the character concepts sketches that she's done, she went ahead and colored those just to get some color on them. I think you've seen some of those on the Facebook and the Twitter release.
Yeah, I have.
Yasube and Yoshio, I mean, just beautiful, beautiful illustrations. And then we actually do have a webpage that we put up to basically introduce people to 47 Furious Tales. It actually just went up this week. I'll get you a link for that so you can check it out, because there's some really cool character bios there that are neat to go over.
All right, sounds great. So when are you relaunching that?
We're going to relaunch that in January.
Okay.
After fulfillment for Whispers is done. If Whispers actually fulfills along the timeline, I think it's going to. I'm probably going to do a real short campaign to finish funding Death Comes to Glenfall and get it out in December, which is maybe a little bit of a furious pace, given the number of Kickstarters already launched this year. Because we did Comet, and then we did Steel Road, and then we did Whispers. But the materials there, just got to get the funding, get the art finished up, and get the copies made and get them out.
Right.
But yeah, it's been an amazing thing to see come together and get it done. I mean, we've even got 2019 is basically booked for me for crowdfunding and projects all the way through August.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, we've actually got an anthology project that we're going to be launching out with several of the artists who've been contributing for Sinopa's RPG lines, and they're putting out intellectual properties of theirs, and I'm going to go ahead and publish that for them so they can get copies to take to their conventions and sign for their fans and stuff like that. It's going to be really neat.
Oh, that sounds great. Speaking of conventions, you have any planned that are coming up?
I'm probably going to go down to this one little convention in Richmond, Kentucky, the day after my birthday in November. Not for setting up anything, but just to go ahead and hang out with some of the people who've been backing my projects. And I used to live down there, and just go hang out and just touch base and see some old faces and really great friends. I do want to catch up to a couple of the conventions that are larger in the area. The Cincinnati Comic-Con, when it comes around, I'm going to start hitting up the Lexington Toy and Comic Convention. Get enough books on hand so that I can at least make my table back.
Right.
And just hang out with people and show them what we're doing. Beyond that, I think I'm going to take a page from your book and do the little small appearances. And I say little small appearances because I love to do like book signing events, and so I go to comic shops and we bring a bunch of copies and we sign for people who are wanting to get into the tarot adventures or any of the other stuff. And it's just been a great deal of fun to talk to people and tell them how you get to do this stuff and how they can do it themselves. It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it's great fun. I love doing little signing appearances. There's so much less stress at those than there are at the big cons that you paid like $1,000 to be at.
Yeah. I mean, if I remember right, you did one at a pizza place, didn't you?
A pizza place? I've never done one at a pizza place. My buddy Ty Wakefield did. I have done library signings,
Right.
all kinds of different little things. But no, pizza place, that would have been Ty. He did one at Domino's.
Oh, I got you. Did you also do one down at the racetrack? Remember that? Am I right on that? Or am I
I did one at a car show. Maybe that's what you're thinking of.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe it was the car show. That was the one we were talking about getting the signs for and all that.
Yeah. It would be the car show.
Yeah. How'd that work out?
I think it did pretty well. It's it's kind of hard to judge because I had never done a show that was like that before. But I made my table money back and my gas cost, and I didn't lose any money, and I consider that to be good. I kind of looked around at what I could have been doing better, so if I ever do it again, I'll have a good knowledge base of what other things I could bring. Like, I thought glassware would actually do really well there, and I think we sold one shot glass the entire time, but T-shirts were just moving the entire time for the vendors who had them, and surprisingly, it wasn't just the car-themed T-shirts. There were people there who were selling like Star Wars shirts that were moving like crazy, and so
Cool.
So I'm thinking I'm going to have some T-shirts ready to go if I do the show again, and those will probably move pretty well. So, what made you decide to relaunch in January? That seems like it might be kind of a dangerous month right on the tail of Christmas and all that.
It is. That came in because I've been directing any extra revenue that was left over after any fulfillment was done into 47 Furious Tales and the other projects.
Uh-huh.
And so we want to get it in and get it to people. I mean, we're not going to do it like the first week of January. We're probably going to do it the third week of January, actually. And get the actual campaign out. Let people have a chance to kind of recover from their holiday spending. And really hit the new year with this great book right out of the gate. I've said this to a lot of people, and people are probably tired of hearing it, but I really am very much committed to that book.
All right.
It's not just another comic. It's going to be the first comic that my company releases as its own property. And it's the first one that I've written that I'm releasing. And the idea of actually getting to put this together is just such a beautiful thought to me that I've really put everything I can into it. And I've got a great artist. Alexia is hands down the person that I would choose to do it. And, I think you were there when that one gentleman asked if I could have anyone in the world, living or dead, as far as comic artists, do that book. And I was like, yeah, Alexia Veldhusen. That's who I want to do it.
Right.
So she's just really that good, and she's a very, very big fan of the genre. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, it looks completely amazing. I love the way it looks, and I'm definitely going to be sharing the hell out of this because I really want to read this book. So there really and truly aren't too many Kickstarters I get excited about, but when I saw that one back on the day that I backed it, I was really excited. I was like, this book needs to get made. So I was so disappointed when it didn't, but I'm convinced it's going to get funded this time. So
yeah, it was heartbreaking when it didn't fund that first time. It really was. But I think that lesson learned from that was that we really got in kind of an excited state, and we got hurried and a little reckless on that.
Right.
And I think that's really what cost it. And I'm going to take responsibility for that because I was just so incredibly excited about it that I didn't promote it as much as I should have in advance. And we didn't have the actual page art ready for it yet. And it was tough. I'm going to send you that link to the page so that you can see some of the character concept sketches that she's done in the cast part of it.
All right, sounds good.
We've got Yoshio, and we've got his son Chikara, and then of course Lord Asano Naganori before that, who was the daimyo of Eiko, our main villain, and then several of the key players in the story, which a lot of people will be surprised is that we included among those a geisha and a prostitute who actually play a pretty significant role in the way the Eiko incident played out. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a surprise for everyone. And then probably the cutest character in the comic, Nobuyuki, tennis guy, and I keep saying I want to turn this character into a plushie someday. It's just, he's adorable.
So maybe that'll be an upcoming Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think it's got to be another Kickstarter for another time. Have to get a bunch of plushies made, but yeah, it's a lot of fun, and she's done just a fantastic job. And these are really in the cast. This is just the concept sketches that she's done for these pieces. The interior is shaping up to be really on the same quality as the cover art that she's done, which we've used for the homepage. And I never cease to be amazed by the work from Alexia.
Yeah, she's a fantastic artist. So
yeah,
definitely the right person to be doing this project. So we got just a few minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted to mention or cover?
Yeah, remember, guys, the Darkslinger comic guys have put out some amazing titles.
Thank you.
So Ghost Assassin, I mean, come on. This is a great, great story. And support your comic creators, people, because they are the future, and they are telling the stories that you want to hear that you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure that you're listening to your podcast and support their artistic endeavors, because they're doing a great, great job. We'll also give a big congratulations to Angus Angerson and the rest of the guys who launched Judge Dredd. They did a really great job. And also all the other little indie creators like me who are working every day to try and bring the best content they can. Right there in the trenches with you guys, let's go ahead and give people the best stuff they've ever seen. And play with each other well and be nice to one another and support each other, because that's how we actually succeed as a community.
What is the Judge Dredd project? You mentioned that earlier. I'm not actually familiar with that.
Well, do you remember Judge Dredd, the comic, and then later the movie with Stallone and all that?
Yeah, absolutely.
They have a Judge Dredd RPG that launched just a couple of days ago, and it literally funded in 9 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, and we're not talking like $600 Kickstarter either. This was pretty substantial. I think they're actually over $100,000 in funding right now, and no indication it's slowing down.
Wow.
It's just that the art looks really great. It's appropriate to the original content in a lot of ways, and it just looks fantastic. And if you're a Judge Dredd fan and haven't heard about it, you should really check it out, because they did an amazing, amazing job with it. Yeah,
I will definitely have to go over and check that out. I need to read more Judge Dredd, but I do enjoy what I have read, and I enjoyed the Carl Urban movie, not so much the Sly movie, but
I haven't seen the latest one yet.
It was really good. It was really, really good. I definitely recommend checking that out, and they're actually coming out with a Netflix show about all the different judges.
He doesn't take off his helmet in this one.
No, he doesn't take off his helmet once in the new one, which is great.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
I'll have to see that, because I haven't seen it yet.
It's a great movie. I definitely recommend checking that one out. Cool. And you should be able to find it for $1 or $2 at a garage sale if you hunt around. So.
I'll probably go to Amazon and see if it's on there.
Oh, it'll definitely be there.
Pull it down. That sounds like a fun thing to close my weekend out with.
Hell yeah, definitely. So speaking of that, I think that's about all the time we have for tonight. So head over to Kickstarter. Head over to Kickstarter and check out Whisperers of Persephone. by Mr. Sam Quinton. If you don't have money to pledge, please consider sharing it on Facebook, Twitter, or just telling a person or a friend about it in person. Every person who knows about the project can help tremendously in getting one funded. So, once again, that's Whispers of Persephone over on Kickstarter.com. Thank you very much for being on tonight, Sam.
Hey, thanks for having me. I love the show, and I hope that I can be on again. And, also, too, don't forget that you have a standing invitation to any of the live streams for the project so that we can help point people towards your show as well, because it's just really great.
Yeah, I definitely need to be on one of those. It's just all about figuring out the timing of it, really. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, we will definitely have you on here again.
So.
When is that? Or what is that?
We're going to do another live stream in 2 weeks, and you're more than welcome to be there.
All right. Sounds great. So, this is Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Thank you for listening.